Hi, this is John Ondo from Marketing Media and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode. If everybody could think like us,
well, no.
The world would be perfect.
I don't think so.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, media, and cupcakes.
This is episode 6 of Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. Hi, I'm John. I'm joined with my wife, Angel.
Hey there.
Do you deal with people? Do you work with people?
I do on a daily basis, all day long.
And people I have found are they're difficult, and I try as much as I can not to deal with people sometimes.
Well, that's probably why you work more in media, in the sense that you're dealing with a screen and different things, and humans, which is what I deal with all day long on the phone and through other, between verbal and email and whatnot. I deal with them all the time.
Yeah, because their customers are calling you up, and they have problems. They don't call you up because, hey, everything's great. It's, hi, you screwed something up or something didn't get shipped, and you're dealing with those things.
Yes.
I deal with that too. I have clients with my media production company. I'm a filmmaker, media consultant kind of guy. So I have clients who literally will call me up and I don't know why this happens, 8 o'clock on a weekend, because they're entrepreneurs and they're like, hi, hey, John, I got this great idea. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's great. Could you put that in an email for me? And so I could have it in writing, and I forget everything. And then I've got other clients who are meticulous. I'm sure you have quite a wide range of people you deal with.
As a matter of fact, I had 2 scenarios that are very similar to yours. One, we use Skype at work, and someone in another part of the world. Part of the world is, very good way to put it. Part of the world sent me a note and said, can you give me this information about this customer, but didn't give me any other information. I was like, well, can I have the account number? And then they came back with like 7, and they wanted specific. And I said, can you please put this in an email? Because this does not work well over Skype.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted me to try to give them all this in. I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then the second one, similar to the email story, is this lovely girl. I can tell she's new, and she sent me a order. Then she sent me, I have an addition to the order, but the second order didn't have any content on the Word document. It was blank. I said, hey, this is wrong. I need information. And then she's like, I'm sorry, here it is. And so clearly had a date.
If everybody could
future.
Think like us,
well, no,
the world would be perfect.
I don't think so.
But since they can't, we're going to bring in a good friend of mine. Bill Harris he's also a colleague, in the sense he's a journalist. He's been a news anchor at an NBC affiliate up in Toledo. He's an Emmy winner, and he's a super all-around guy. And one of the things he does, he's part of this cool personality assessment program. It's part of a company called Lead Like Jesus, but he is a certified facilitator. So Bill, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Fine, just fine. Good to be with you, John and Angel.
So, Bill, when people call you, it's almost like a marriage, isn't it? When you've got people who work together and they work with clients, it's a lot like a marriage, isn't it?
It is, because the dynamics between or among each of you, and you have expectations of one another that you want to have met. Sometimes those expectations are met, sometimes they're not, and each one triggers reactions, just like a marriage.
You have what's called a DISC assessment. Now, I've had these multiple times, and what's fun about what we're going to do today is both Angel and I have done our assessment, and we do work together, because even though she has a cupcake business on the side and she has a full-time job, and I have my media production company, she does my business, like the financial stuff, the important stuff, and so we have to communicate all the time and talk about things, and we've been married now for almost 4 years. And so we're still trying to figure out, I know she's figuring out how to read me still, Bill, and I'm figuring out how to read hers. So tell me a little bit about the DISC assessment and what's unique about it, and why you love working with people on this.
Well, first of all, I love people. I really love people. And I think the DISC assessment is a program that helps you to even love them more, because it teaches you basically how to understand people and understand where they're coming from. There's an old habit that most of us as human beings have, is we look at other people and say, well, why can't you be like me?
Exactly. Why can't you be like me?
Okay. Yeah, how come your values and everything else are not like mine? Well, we're all wired differently. And the key is, rather than trying to change people to be like me, try to learn people where they're coming from and to appreciate them from where they are, their standpoint. And so the DISC assessment helps you to assess the personality profile of an individual or individuals, so that you can appreciate them where they are and accept what they bring to the table along with what you bring to the table, in essence.
Bill, how long have you been doing this now?
For about 20 years now, and recently the organization Lead Like Jesus that I'm certified with has gone to computerization with this program, which has added so many more dynamics. But I've been doing, roughly over about 20 years.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was trying to give a nonverbal to Angel. I was going to ask you, have you ask a question about tell some stories.
I thought you wanted me to tell a story, and I was so confused. And I was like, "What?"
You see, that's a classic example right there. I'm trying to I'm trying to slide a note under the table while you were talking. It's like, "Hey, Angel, ask this question," and I wrote it how I understood it.
Yeah, which was tell me a story.
Tell me some stories.
So I thought he wanted me to tell a story.
And I wanted you to ask Bill. Hey, Bill, tell me a story. But Angel,
I think
see, there are dynamics
right there. Right there. I think we need to leave that in there.
So that's a good. That's how that works.
Yeah, there are dynamics going between the two of you as husband and wife, right there in front of everybody else.
Yeah. So Bill, tell me a story.
A success story of how you maybe you went into a business or an organization and there was tension. I mean, what was the word? Have you had one that was just like this company was at their throats with each other, and you came in, and then when you left, everything was perfect?
Not anything quite that dramatic.
Oh, but we'll make something up then. We like dramatic stories.
But I can tell you though, the joy that I get out of doing it is that when I'm going through the presentation, and we're going through the description of various personality styles and the dynamics between personalities, you can see the aha moment come on people's faces when they say, aha, I get it, or aha, I know somebody that's just like that, or aha, you're talking about me. That's the way I am. And as people begin to see themselves, understand themselves better, and as they begin to understand the person they're either working with or the person that they are married to, a smile comes over their face, and you can see that, they do get it, and they're moving toward a greater understanding and a greater relationship. And that to me means an awful lot, really does.
Bill, do you see this like in situations like Angel and myself? We both have different jobs, but yet we do work together with my business, and I work with her business. But you get along great. You're married. You're great. You got your family. But maybe the work part of that, there's maybe a little bit of frustration. Have you run into those situations where married couples and they think, this is so great. We're such a great married couple. We could start a home business, and then they start the business, and then the next thing you know, there's sword fights in the living room or something.
That's right. And there are some couples that have learned, John, that even though they're a loving couple at home and the like, that they cannot work together because of the dynamics in the workplace that are different. And you'll see as we go through the DISC reports, the relationship and the personality reports, that you have a natural style, which you tend to be most of the time, but you also have an adaptive style, which you may change into in the workplace, which can be different than the way you are at home. And once that adaptive style kicks in, there can be different expectations that a husband and wife may have of each other, and they can clash if they don't realize what's going on.
So let's kind of get into this. And I know it's a podcast, so you can't see. And actually, Bill, if people wanted, maybe they're at work or they're listening to us on a laptop, if they wanted to maybe Google real quick and maybe follow some of this, or what's the website they could go to learn a little bit about what we're about to go through here?
Well, the workshop is called leadlikejesus.com. Leadlikejesus.com.
And that can go for either a church or a ministry, or it can also go just for a regular business. You have
it
kind
certainly
of two tracks.
can.
Okay.
There are two tracks that Lead Like Jesus runs on. One is a secular track, and that is called the classical disc. So you'll want to look for that on the website. The classical disc deals with those organizations that are not religiously based and the like, and just deal with these personality matters from a strictly secular standpoint. And the other side, for churches and the like that want to invoke scripture and biblical principles and biblical values, there is called the classical disc. And the word disc, by the way, is spelled D-I-S-C, because each of those letters form an acronym that basically portrays 4 different personality types and variations of those 4. And very quickly, John, the D is for the dominant personality. It stands for the dominance, that is persons who place emphasis on accomplishing results and getting to the bottom line with confidence and the like. The I in that acronym is for the influencing personality. And in this regard, the person places emphasis on influencing or persuading other people, openness in relationships and the like. The S in that acronym is steadiness, the steadiness personality. And these persons put emphasis on cooperating with others, on being sincere with others, and being very dependable. I call them the steady eddies of the world. And the last part of that acronym, the C, stands for conscientiousness. And there we're describing persons who place emphasis on quality and accuracy and competency. These are people who want to get it right. They're very detail oriented. And among those 4, you have variations, because as you take the assessment, John and Angel, you may find that you score high in more than just one of those 4. You may be a blend of 2 or 3 of those. So
there's no right or wrong.
Exactly.
Although you may find that an entrepreneur is probably more of a D and an I, perhaps, and those
exactly. In many cases, they are. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is kind of fun. So, Angel, and it didn't take long on this. I know there's different types of tests, but the one we did, it only took a few minutes. So, Bill, take control of Angel and myself here. Tell me what we should do, and what you kind of walk us through, and you'll everybody gets to hear our problems and our strong points.
Okay, well, the two of you follow me on your pages as well, because I'm going to start off with page 5 on each one of your personality, your relationship reports.
Right.
And let's go from John and then to Angel. John, you came out as what is called an assessor, and an assessor personality. Well, like yourself, you scored, and rather than calling it a test, I like to call it a survey, because when you're doing the assessment, there are no right or wrong answers. It's just your answers reflecting you. John, you came out as a high I, or high in the influencing area, and also a high C in the conscientious area. Those are that's a blend of your core personality type, or accessor. And it means that in terms of emotional characteristics, you have a stronger desire to look for the good in others. And your goal is to win, and to win with style.
Ooh.
And And in terms of how others are valued, you value them by the ability to trigger action and activities. And you are a great influencer type individual. Now, before we go to Angels, let's go to page on page 6 for each of you. It deals with your strengths. And John, you know, I should have asked you ahead of time to maybe pick out 2 of those bullet items in terms of what resonates with you as your strengths. But it says you're deadline savvy and able to juggle many issues simultaneously. Mm-hmm.
The thing that I noticed, and it was interesting because I had never thought about this. It talked about you may get bogged down in details like a security blanket in a high pressure climate, and it's so true because What will often happen is I'm maybe on a large project or I'm trying to get something started. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. And the next thing I find myself doing is maybe I sidetrack myself and I wonder how the SEO on my webpage is doing. And I start fiddling around with SEO, or, hey, I think I might want to rewire my workstation real quick. And it's just like sometimes I would argue, to me, it feels like I'm relaxing or just taking my mind off things. And it's interesting that it does feel like I do get into those details when I'm under pressure. I tend to I need to just spin my wheels a little bit. I don't know, but that was a great assessment there. I definitely believe that.
Okay, well, let's understand that when you're concerned about those details and the like, that if you look to your wife's output, she is she scores very nice and high in the area of C, or the conscientiousness. And because of that, this is an area where Angel can bring you some balance. And in that regard, because she can deal with detail a little better than you, there is a complementary area that I would suggest you look to. Where she's able. Go ahead.
Well, that's kind of what happened as I was doing my finances before we met. I had a accounting system and so forth, and I had my checkbook and all that thing, and she would ask me, well, how much money do you have in the business account? Somewhere between $300 and $600 or something like that. And I could see her eyes rolling back in her head because she balances things down to the dime. And I'm like, plus or minus a couple $100. I don't know. I got a check coming out here and a check, you're not saying anything. She's being quiet and listening at the moment, but she's laughing. Say something. I mean, is this how this was?
100%. It took, I think, almost 2 years for him to finally hand it over and feel comfortable at doing that, because I don't think he wanted to burden me. But at the same time, in some of the other assessments that are of John, it's, maybe not wanting to give that up just yet. So I was patient until he was finally ready to hand it over. She was very
good.
Well, you see, there's a great balance there. John, you were high in the influencing personality, the I, and also C, which is the conscientious. But Angel was higher in the C, the conscientiousness, than you are. And so here is where there's a good balance, because when it comes to those detailed things, particularly if they're the kind of detailed things that frustrate you, she will do better in that than you will. On the other hand, if there's the need to come to a bottom line decision quickly, you, John, will be able to get there faster than she will because of her need for more detailed information before making that decision. She is very conscientious and wants to take the time to sift through all of the facts, all the information before arriving at that conclusion. And so in the long run, she will help you so that things won't slip through the cracks. But by the same token, Angel, John will help you get to the bottom line faster if there's a situation where the pressure dictates that you've got to make that bottom line decision right now before all the facts are in, and maybe there's just scanty information in which to make that decision. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Completely. And that I can completely agree that that's how we redid our kitchen 2 years ago. And it was something that I had taken on myself in a smaller version several years prior to meeting John. And I literally couldn't even sit in the kitchen or look at the kitchen for probably a good month. I just basically would walk past it and go to the basement and cry. And then John came in and it was just a conversation. And then it was like, well, do you think we could do this? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, we should look at this and we should look at this. And he's like, well, no. And it just it went from zero to hero so fast. And but it was because of him. And I've always said he gave me the strength and the permission to do these things without having every single piece of data.
Something we talked about last week, Bill, in reference to when we're dealing with customers, is that there is a couple of books out talking about something called like a decision paralysis. When you give somebody too many choices, they just don't know what to do.
They go into analysis paralysis is what they do.
Okay, there you go. And so I guess this also, this helps us as far as, Angel and myself working together as a team with our businesses. But it also kind of helps us understand with clients, because I know I've sat down with clients and I see them staring at me like deer in the headlights, and I know, I gave them too much information. Their heads just exploded. And so that probably explains what we're dealing with there. Is that a C?
Yes, that is a C. And what this DISC assessment program does for you, John, is it teaches you how to observe human behavior and to determine quite quickly what personality profile that person that is before you, what type of personality they likely have, so that you know how to approach them and deal with them. And there might have been some clues that would have led you to conclude that person you were dealing with was in fact a high C, a conscientious person, a detail-oriented person, in which case you would have known to give them bullet point items rather than detailed information. And the reverse is also true, had it been a person that just needs more detailed information. But that's one of the advantages of it. It helps you to assess the needs of that individual person, whether it's somebody you're married to, somebody you're working with, or a client or a customer that you're dealing with. They have different needs, and we have to learn to address people according to their needs. Another thing, too, I wanted to mention, on page 8 of each of your assessments, I go through the do's and the don'ts. For instance, let me just mention this. Here is a list of things to do and to not do when communicating with Angel. John, this is key for you. It says here, first of all, to do when communicating with Angel, present your ideas and opinions in a non-threatening way. Do your homework, because Angel's homework will already be done. I mean, she's a more detailed person.
Oh yeah, I know how that works.
Yeah, and when you get down to the bottom, the don'ts with Angel, it says, don't offer promises that you can't keep. Don't offer assurances and guarantees that you can't fulfill. And so those are just some of the things to don't do. Now, Angel, let's flip this over. Let's take a look at the things to do with John. These are the things to do. List pros and cons of the suggestions you make. If you disagree with the direction, show your position in an organized presentation, which I'm sure you can do. I
prefer a PowerPoint, please.
There you go. Okay. And ask for John's input regarding people and specific assignments. However, when communicating with John, don't do the following. Don't be impersonal or judgmental. Don't get in the habit of manipulating ideas quickly or being dogmatic. And the bullet points go on, and they really give you guidance on how to deal with a person's needs based on their personal profile.
Well, what I love actually is number 4, which you should have hit on, which is whine all about the work you have to do. It's one of the things you're not supposed to do with John. And I can agree with that. You are definitely don't whine about that.
We're talking with Bill Harris. He is a certified facilitator with the DISC assessment, which is a personality assessment program, which Angel and I took, and he's kind of walking us through a little bit of our assessment. We're probably not even going to get into all of this on our first show here.
We're not. I can tell.
So we're already at time almost. So let's. So I want to hit a couple of things and hold you over so we can get into our next program with episode 7. The other thing about this assessment, in a way, I can't highly recommend it enough. After spending 10 or 15 minutes putting this in, we received a 46-page report within like 2 minutes. So obviously it's a computerized thing, but then Bill, you walk people through on how to really understand that, and then so forth. So so before we end this part of this episode, and we'll get into this more in the next episode. Tell me real quick then. Obviously, you could get the 46 pages and kind of read through it, but it's really great when you can come in and say and walk us through. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, you need to have a debriefing. Once you go to the website and you complete the form or the assessment, rather, within 30 to 60 seconds, well, I should say within 60 to 120 seconds or so, you're going to get a link that will come into your email so that you can click on that and get to your report and print it out. And you should print it out in color because everything is color coded. And then I get a notification by way of email that you have completed your report. And then I would probably call you the next day and we would set up a time to get together either in person or by phone, depending on the distance and so forth, so that we can do the debriefing process and I can go through those 18 pages with you. Now, keep in mind the assessment that you're doing online only takes about 10 to 15 minutes. As you said earlier, John, that it didn't take an awful long time. The paper version years ago took a lot longer. But the computerized version, you can answer those questions and get that report back within a minute or two. So,
Bill, how much does this cost?
It varies depending on whom you're dealing with. There's a baseline price that is for the cost of using the facilities of Lead Like Jesus, plus the cost for the facilitator that is walking you through all of this and doing that report. And that's something that you want to negotiate with the facilitator as to what that cost will be over and above the baseline price of just doing it online itself.
So it's a custom build kind of a thing.
It really is.
We all know, especially as small business people, when you lose an employee and have to rehire somebody because they got ticked off and walked off the job, there's a cost to that. So when you look at the she in something like this that could maybe save an employee who feels frustrated that he can't communicate, she or she can't communicate, the cost is pretty nominal for that.
That's true, because once the manager of that company gets a copy of that report that his employee has done, the assessment that his employee has done, it gives him or her a better understanding of that employee. And then when the manager and the employee sit down together to go over the report with the facilitator, there's an understanding there that can come about that may not otherwise have been bridged. And so a greater understanding comes about in terms of that manager now having a better understanding of how that employee is wired, and the employee having a better understanding of how his or her manager is wired. And consensus comes about out of that understanding, and it can save. You're right. It can save relationships, and it does. I've seen this. It does save relationships.
Well, Bill, we're going to get you back in on our next episode here real quick, and I want to ask you some questions, and I know Angel's got a bunch of them ready, because working together, this is going to help us out. But sometimes we kind of roll blind into conversations with clients. People could show up, at your store and maybe are confrontational, and I'm hoping maybe you can give us some light on how to deal with maybe a dominant personality or somebody who's struggling with making decisions in our next episode. But real quick, tell me, how can people get in contact with you to get more information about this, or schedule getting a disc assessment?
Well, fine. I would simply say the quickest way would be just a simple phone call. And if anybody has a pencil and paper, they can just write it down. Area code 419, and the number is my cell number, 340-2006. So again, that's 419-340-2006. And I can send them some information. There is a two-page flyer that I think gives you a very good capsule summary, John, of what the DISC assessment is all about. And I could also couple that with 2.5 pages of frequently asked questions about the DISC assessment. Okay.
Well, and we'll get some of those, and we'll link those as well in our podcast, so you can look for those below. So, Bill, we'll get you in here. We're going to talk some more. I'm very excited, and I hope we can communicate better now. I think we do pretty good, though.
I think we do pretty well.
It's the other people that drive me nuts.
It is.
Well, so glad you're joining us. And again, if you like the podcast, we would love to have you continue to tell other people about it. Subscribe. We're fairly new, but we just really believe as we become small business owners and we're walking through this journey that we want to encourage you. Your business can survive, and there's often those rocky days that you have starting out. We're still going through some of those, and I think everybody goes through those. But we wanted to make a podcast that encourages small business people and continue to rock it. And if you're doing cupcakes or media or whatever you're doing, that this would be a great tool for you. So again, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes, and continue to listen to our podcast, and we'll be back next week as we talk more about DISC assessment.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram, and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.